Today we're going to go through 15 things you forgot about in BedWars, or at least you may have forgotten because some of you have good memory. Now, the one thing I need you to do, okay, because a lot of you are going to be saying, DV, yeah, I remember that, remember that, remember that. But what I need you to do is be honest in the comments below. Let me know if there was a, oh yeah moment and made you remember, because that means you did forget. Now, before I begin, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, one thing a lot of people bring up often to me is, DV, whatever happened to the VIP Game Pass? You remember that big green heart that was inside the lobby at launch? Well, that thing went away. So a lot of people, totally forgot about the VIP. I get a lot of comments about the fact that I have VIP in my tag, and I have like VIP, I've got DV clan, and I've got the AC mod. Man, my tags look stacked. But you can't get the VIP Game Pass anymore if you're a newer player. This was a Game Pass that originally came out with BedWars, and what this was supposed to do is it was supposed to give you some kind of cool VIP lounge access. They were going to do like a little lounge, but I think they just didn't do that because it was kind of cheesy. Like, what are you really going to do in a VIP lounge? You're going to be like, hey, peasants, you're out there. We're in first class. What are you going to do? You're not going to do that. Like, that's just weird. What are you going to do? Like, kind of laugh at people because they can't get in? Not a good idea. Now, the one thing the devs were going to do was give players a jetpack kind of lobby gadget that they could do if they're VIP. That never really came to fruition, probably because they changed their mind. They never announced that. It wasn't something that they were going to, like, absolutely for sure do. It was just something that they thought might be cool for VIP pass owners. Now, since then, they pretty much just chalked it up as, a support kind of Game Pass. You were an early bird. You gave them some support to help the game further along. And so VIP Pass, no more progress on that to my knowledge, and I don't think it's ever returning. Now, taking you back in memory lane, one thing you probably forgot about was the Cherry Blossom map. Used to be 2-story. This was a really, really cool map, okay? I don't really know why they nerfed it. Maybe it was too complicated for players, but I loved this map because it was 2-story, and I loved chasing people down. Maybe because people kept complaining that they had to chase people up this giant tree. That could be it, but honestly, this was like one of my favorite maps in the game because it was multi-layered. It was so much more of an advanced map than what we have today, and I just thought it was really, really great. I loved crawling up there. It was kind of like a rush to get up at the top of the map, but this one was just like the best of the best. So really miss the old Cherry Blossom map. You may remember it. Speaking of, as you're looking at that, you probably notice a big difference in the game itself. So let's go through some of the things that you probably forgot. One is the simple textures. Back then, they didn't have much detail in the textures, so they were really, really clean, very basic. It felt like a cleaner game overall, but more simplistic, and they, obviously refined and continue to work on their textures. And so now the textures look way better, to some degree. Although I don't know about you, but I kind of miss the old, like, just simple colors and shapes, man. It just made it so much easier to see people, see what's going on in the game. Now there's so much detail, it just gets really busy, but hey, you know what? Who am I to complain? It's still cool either way. Now, some people don't remember when BedWars had no kits. This is when the game was honestly so much better. No slight to the devs. I think the devs made an awesome game. They know that, so many people play this game because it's so enjoyable. And kits did make a different game, and it is a fun game. But BedWars before kits was just as fun. I'm telling you right now, no kits and just the original, like no relics, no enchantments, no emerald armor. Everything that they've added since, I think, have really made the game more complex, whereas the simple original classic version of BedWars was just so much fun. No surprises. It was all skill based, based on like how good you were with a sword, building, and bows. That's pretty much it. And then you obviously had your pearls and a couple other things. But before kits, there was no kits, and it was a really, really fun game because everyone had the same stuff. Another great memory was when the game first came out, they had these blocky iron it was like placeholder for iron. So basically how it worked is that they had like, I think 4 or 5 days left to launch the game because it was all based on a countdown in islands, right? So it was the big game reveal. And so they had a rush to get these armor models completed, but the iron one was not done yet. They only had the leather and the diamond done. So you had these like iron characters, like anytime you buy iron armor, you were just basically these like little blocks running around. They were just basically placeholders for iron, but it was so funny just running around with this. It just reminds me of like those little kids that make like armor out of cardboard. You just look so goofy. The thing about it though is it had so much character. I loved it. Speaking of goofy, the old barbarian. A lot of people don't remember the old look of the barbarian. He used to look really different. Very, very basic skins. He didn't have like the really cool armor that he has now. This is like the very first version of the barbarian, and to their credit, the original modeler, whoever did that art, it still looks somewhat cool. Honestly, it was cool for the, the time. In fact, he was like one of the worst kits in the game because a lot of people don't remember, and this is the next one that you probably forgot about, is that he didn't have a Rageblade at launch. So I usually mention this inside my trivia questions anytime I do a trivia, but Barbarian was like one of the worst kits, even beyond like Builder, because at least Builder had a hammer and you can, defend and stuff, and at least Cletus could, do farms. Barbarian, you were pretty much stuck because what would happen is you had to kill so many players in order for you to even get like a stone sword and iron sword that it was pretty much useless, because you could buy, using any other kit, you could buy the swords faster than Barbarian. Like, you could actually outbuy and outgrind iron past the Barbarian unless you were getting a ton of kills. And the only way that you could get a lot of kills back then is you had to basically spawn camp. So Barbarian did not have a Rageblade back then, and eventually, because it was such a big gap between Diamond, and even just to get Diamond, you had to basically do like 20 something kills just to get a Diamond sword. It was insane. It was such a bad kit. And then they did add a Rageblade and made it a little easier for you to get Rage, and then it became a better kit. But a lot of people don't realize the Barbarian never had a Rageblade until later. The other thing that was kind of funny is back then, you may not remember, but they didn't have fall damage for a while. So for some time, because there was some bugs with collision, I think with the blocks, you'd fall through the blocks at times, they basically turned off fall damage. And so for a long time, we had no fall damage, which made it a lot of fun because you could just tower straight up and then just drop down. It was just a really, really arcadey style game, and arcadey is not really a word, but you get what I'm saying. It was just like a really silly and goofy casual game where you didn't really have any penalty for like doing weird things, jumping around, falling down. And again, back to the classic, man, original BedWars, so much fun. Another thing people probably forgot is the original BedWars had a lava underground Easter egg. This came out launch day, and it was a really, really cool underground like lava area. And this was just like, a little cave that you would have to enter and go down in a tunnel. There's like this little glowing key. I'm not showing it here. They did take it out because they thought it was causing lobby lag, and it turned out it was not causing the lag, but it was a really cool Easter egg. Now, taking you back even further again, something you may have forgotten if you did play BedWars back then was the old team color tag. So nowadays you have a little circle that shows an indicator of which team you're on, and then it's either red or green. So green for your friendlies, red for enemies. Back then though, it was all based on team color. So red team, yellow team, green team, they all had like colored tags. And I did mention to them multiple times, I'm like, dude, I can't tell when blue is attacking me or green is attacking me if it's like blue or green. So from a distance, those colors blended so much, I didn't know if it was friendly or not. So you'd have to like wait a bit, and they're running up to you, and you find out they're green while you're blue, and it looked blue from a distance because of anti-aliasing and rendering and such. So it was really goofy back then, and then they obviously updated it. Another thing you may have forgotten is back then, there were no first-person weapons. Look you can't even see the weapon that I'm using right now. Like, you don't know if I'm using a sword. You don't know what I'm using. You don't even know what kind of sword I have because you can't see it in the first-person camera. You would only be able to see this in third person. And I remember the day they came out with the first-person camera like weapons, and I was kind of bummed because it does obscure the camera a little bit. I wish there was an option for me to turn it off because you could see so much better without it blocking your screen. But on the other hand, you also have more feedback seeing it on screen, so I get why they added it. Another thing you may have forgotten is they didn't have damage indicators back then. The only way you knew you were attacking someone and hitting them was their knockback. So they would actually get knocked back a little bit, and you'd see, okay, I hit them. They didn't even have the red flash for a while because I think they tried to add it for a bit, and then they removed it or something because it was causing some lag or something to that degree. I can't remember exact details, but I remember back then we had like a hit indicator, and then they had to turn it off, and then they brought it back in. Another thing you probably forgot about, 16 versus 16. This was the first mode they added that had more than 4 players on a team. And I remember this was going to be like a limited time mode. And then, of course, Kaneko Kitten was like, hey, I love this. Please keep this mode. And the devs extended how long they had it in there. And then they eventually replaced it with 30v30, which had faster generators and a lot more players. And, of course, that's what we have today. So 16v16, honestly, I like the 30v30s more than the 16s. 16s was just kind of weird and it was really slow for generators. I like 30v30s. A lot of people have forgotten the old bows. Now, the new bows currently, they're not bad, okay? So the devs did a great job really refining the bows. I think the bows in the game currently are much better than the glitched bows we were having for a while. We had all these kind of issues with absorbs. But the original bows were the best of all time because there are a couple things that I liked about it. One is it was like instantaneous, like you knew if you got a hit or not instantaneously. The other thing that you got was like this really nice arch. It was like very, very opaque and large, so you knew where you were going to land your, arrows and your shots. And so it was just so much clearer, also more accurate at the time. And the reason why they were more accurate at the time was they were client side, which resulted in hackers. So you would get hit by arrows no matter what. But the thing that I really loved back then was the bows had insane knockback. If you got a hit on someone, they were pretty much knocked off the bridge. Back then, the knockback was insane. The other thing that was crazy though, and I'm kind of glad that they nerfed, was the fire rate. The fire rate was so insane. You can lock on and hit someone so fast within like a couple of seconds. And because of that, like if someone was just like right in front of you, almost in, arm's reach, you could pretty much bow spam them and knock them back so fast and eventually kill them without them ever being able to reach you. So I really liked it. I like that old combat system too, but the bow system that's currently in the game is much, much better and more fair. Lastly, the one thing you may have forgotten was the insane nerf that was added to balloons. So back then, when balloons first came out, they were supposed to be like a limited time thing. They were only here for a little while, right? Balloons were not supposed to stay. And then I think players, like the casual players, really, really loved balloons so much, including a lot of content creators. No offense to any content creator friends, because a lot of content creators are excellent at the game. Back then, they were not so good, okay? So they really relied on balloons and they begged to keep them in the game. And I was really frustrated with this because I didn't like balloons. I thought they really ruined the game, and in fact, I still think they kind of ruined the game. I lost that fight, okay? They're permanently in the game. Back then, they were so bad because they also had infinite balloons. So you could have like 80 balloons in your inventory, so they nerfed that. They brought it down. The worst thing that happened was they nerfed the balloons to the point that if you took damage, there was a 3-second cooldown before you could use them again. You couldn't spawn another balloon for 3 seconds. And so if you, splashed yourself on accident with a fireball, you were done. Anyway, let me know in the comments below, which ones did you forget? I know a lot of people have great memories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you want to go back in history and check out some of my older videos for BedWars to see like the original days of BedWars and how it used to be, you can do so by checking out the BedWars playlist in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, peace.